Pennsylvania is still counting ballots. Its 20 electoral college votes could decide the presidency, but the counting in one of that state's biggest counties has stopped. Mike Armstrong is in Pennsylvania. Mike, we're talking about Allegheny County. That's the area around Pittsburgh. What's happening?
Yeah, Donna, it's a little strange, but completely normal. County officials put out a press release overnight explaining what's happening and why. They have two groups of ballots that require a little bit of extra scrutiny. So they took today to do some administrative work, and they'll be back at counting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Now, why did those two groups of ballots require extra scrutiny? Well, the first group's about 29,000 ballots that were sent out with problems on them from the vendor, and they had to be reissued. County officials have to make sure that no one, for example, sent in two ballots, even by accident. The other group is about 6,000 ballots that have some sort of a mistake on them, something like a smudge from a printer, something like that, so they're not scannable. Now, in some cases, those ballots can still be used, but it takes extra time. So again, in Pittsburgh, they'll be back counting tomorrow morning, but here in Philadelphia, the counting continues.
It's not a race, but more of a grind. Vote counters in the convention center in Philadelphia are processing and adding up ballots at a pace of about 10,000 an hour. As they go about it, this Democratic-leaning county and the ones around it cut into Donald Trump's lead more and more.
Legal lives matter!
Now, that is frustrating some. This is the scene outside the convention center, a protest by Trump supporters.
I don't trust those mail-in votes. I just don't trust them because anybody can send anything.
Now, across from that protest, another. Demonstrators who say every vote has to be counted.
I'm out here because our city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, works so hard to mobilize many, many, many voters.
Now, as contentious as this is, it's also something else, completely predictable. This come-from-behind phenomenon is something political scientists call the blue shift, and it's something they've been studying for years.
All the Jeeps are voting right now.
That's right.
Basically, Democratic voters across the U.S. adopted mail-in and early voting before and in bigger numbers than Republican voters.
Thank you.
This was a group dropping off ballots in York County more than a week before the election. Now, Donald Trump, for the most part, dissuaded his supporters from voting early.
Ready to vote?
So, as the early votes are counted late in the process, Biden's closing the gap.
Thank you.
That is likely a major factor in why the Trump campaign is fighting tooth and nail.
They have 8 attorneys fighting us.
Two Trump campaign officials are complaining again today about access to the counting process. A frustrated Corey Lewandowski going so far as to tweet out private phone numbers for a city lawyer.
What is going on in this city? What are you hiding? Open up the doors, let us in, let us 6 feet away so that we can have a free and fair election.
Now, the counting is a slow process and the fighting over it continues. But for Donald Trump, it's not that there's a lot on the line here in Pennsylvania. Everything's on the line. There is no path to victory for him without this state. Donna?
Okay, Mike Armstrong in Philadelphia. Thank you. Welcome back to Washington. Michigan is one state that had record voter turnout this year. Donald Trump nearly won the state in 2016, the first time it's gone Republican in more than 25 years. As Jeff Semple explains, this year, the president's pandemic policies and leadership style motivated lots of people in Michigan to vote against Trump.
Hamtramck, Michigan's most densely populated city, is home to a diversity of cultures and politics.
Some of them is Democrats, some of them is Republicans.
This business owner voted for Donald Trump in 2016, but this time round, he, along with the rest of the state, flipped to the Democrats.
Especially the whole corona. How he handled it was a big letdown, big, huge letdown that kind of put everybody's life in danger.
This swing voter says during Trump's term he was subjected to racism, which ultimately swayed his vote for Joe Biden.
He's attacking the Muslim.
And the people have spoken. And with the election behind us, now is the time for us to find common ground and come together.
But Biden's supporters aren't celebrating just yet, citing fears that the fight isn't over.
We are praying and wishing a peaceful transition.
Late Wednesday, Trump supporters tried to force their way into the building where the ballots were being counted, echoing the president's calls to stop the count. and prompting police to step in.
A small group of Trump supporters were back outside the building where the ballots are being counted again today, and they, like the president, are claiming fraud and promising to fight.
Outside, tensions erupted once again between Biden and Trump's supporters.
I witnessed ballots that were mismatched.
Braden Giacobazzi was one of the Republican Party's designated election observers allowed inside. He claims he was often prevented from seeing the ballots.
And you'd have to get up close to do that because you can't see it from 6 feet away. And they would step in the way and accuse us of trying to endanger their life because of COVID. They wielded COVID like a weapon.
But a Michigan judge denied Trump's request to halt the counting, which is now complete.
USA! USA!
These tensions and allegations of fraud, even without evidence, fueling fears about the potential for violence once a winner is declared. Jeff Semple, Global News, Detroit.